أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Lesson number 264, Surah Muhammad, ayah number 20 to 38. We'll do a quick review of the ayat that we learned at the beginning of the lesson, and then we'll continue. وَيَقُولُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَوْلَا نُزِّلَتْ سُورَةٌ. Why did the believers ask about this? Why did they express this wish, this concern? لَوْلَا نُزِّلَتْ سُورَةٌ. And when was it? Because the believers were eager to fight in the way of Allah, take revenge against who? The mushrikeen who had oppressed them for so long. So they were hoping, they were wishing that a surah would be revealed. Which surah? Which surah in which was the command to fight? فَإِذَا أُنزِلَتْ سُورَةٌ مُحْكَمَةٌ. What does it mean by suratun muhkamah? Suratun muhkamah. A surah in which was a hukum, meaning the hukum was very clear. Also suratun muhkamah, another meaning. What is that? One that is final, as in it's not mansukh, it's not abrogated. So فَإِذَا أُنزِلَتْ سُورَةٌ مُحْكَمَةٌ وَذُكِرَ فِيهَا الْقِتَالِ. What was the reaction of the people? رَأَيْتَ الَّذِينَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٌ يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَيْكَ نَظَرَ الْمَغْشِيِّ عَلَيْهِ مِنَ الْمَوْتِ. Why did they look in this way? As if they were at the point of dying, as if death had overtaken them. Why did they look in this way? Because they did not want to go out in order to fight in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why is it so that they were so frightened to go out in the way of Allah, that when they were told, you have to go fight, it was as though they were told, you are going to die? Why were they so hesitant? Because they were afraid to lose their life or lose their wealth. Because the munafiq, what is his priority? It is dunya. He doesn't want to sacrifice anything in the way of Allah. But what does Allah say? فَأَوْلَى لَهُمْ. What does فَأَوْلَى لَهُمْ mean? The two meanings. First of all, woe to them, meaning destruction for them. And secondly, better suited for them is what? What was better for them? The next ayah, the following ayah, طَاعَةٌ وَقَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ. Obedience to who? To the messenger, to this command of Allah, and also قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ. What does قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ refer to? سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا. Meaning, instead of showing reluctance, instead of demonstrating fear, and as if they were going to die, instead of behaving in this way, what should they have done? They should have been obedient to this command. And they should have said words that are appropriate. قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ. And you know that the munafiqeen, many times they were very harsh in their speech with the Prophet ﷺ. Because they did not like the command that was being given to them. And a person who has any kind of hatred for you in your heart, eventually it comes out on his tongue. So, when the command was given, the instruction was given, the munafiqeen, they would say extremely harsh words to the Prophet ﷺ. So it is said, وَقَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ, that would have been much better. فَإِذَا عَزَمَ الْأَمْرُ. Then when the matter was resolved. Which matter? Which command? The matter of fighting. Okay? فَإِذَا عَزَمَ الْأَمْرُ. Al-amru over here refers to the matter of fighting, meaning the command has been prescribed. It's very clear that you have to go. The time has come. The preparation is complete. It's time to go for battle. Now at that point, فَلَوْ صَدَقُوا اللَّهَ. If they had been truthful to Allah, لَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُمْ. Surely it would have been better for them. How would they have been truthful to Allah? How should they have been truthful to Allah? By fulfilling their promises. Because they had been saying for so long, if only we could get a chance. Because the believers, they would express their desire, and they were sincere in that. But the munafiqeen, just to look nice, just to look very pious, what would they do? Say the same things that the rest of the believers were saying. So at this time, Allah says that when the command came, when the time to go for battle has come, then if they had been truthful to the promise that they had made with Allah, that would have been much better for them. فَهَلْ عَسَيْتُمْ إِن تَوَلَّيْتُمْ أَن تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَتُقَطِّعُوا أَرْحَامَكُمْ. What does it mean by this ayah? That if you don't go through the trials of fighting, if you don't go through the difficulties of fighting, then this is also expected from you. What? That if you turn away from the command to fight, then you would go back to your old ways. Because when the command to fight came, there were two options for the Muslims. What were they? Either fight or secondly, stay back at home. Now, if you don't fight, if you don't defend, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? You're going to become weaker and weaker and weaker, and eventually you're going to turn away. Eventually you're going to go back to your old ways. Isn't it so that when a people are a minority and they have to fight for their existence, literally, for their survival, if they're not active, eventually what's going to happen? They're going to lose their values. They're going to lose their traditions. They're going to lose their practices. Everything is going to finish. And very soon, they will go back to how they were before. So over here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that could this be expected from you as well? That if you turn away from the command to fight, then you will go back to the ways of jahiliyyah. What? Of fasad fil ard, and cutting off the relations with your family members. So in other words, you have to fight. You have to defend yourself. Because if you don't defend yourself, how will you continue with this deen of yours? How will you survive? You have to defend yourself. And another meaning of tawallaytum is, the second meaning of the word tawallaytum, given authority. Meaning, if without going through the trials, difficulties of battle, you're given authority. What does he mean by authority? Victory over your enemy. Just like that, you're made the victors. Then what will happen? You don't deserve that position. You haven't struggled for it. And if at such an early time you're given that authority, then you will end up doing fasad instead of islah. And you will end up harming people instead of benefiting people. So these are the two meanings of this ayat, based on the meaning of tawallaytum. And those people who turn away from Islam, those people who turn away from the command of Allah, those people who do fasad and cut off their relations with their family members, what does Allah say concerning them? أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ لَعَنَهُمُ اللَّهُ. Those are the people whom Allah has cursed. They are distant, they are removed far away from Allah's mercy. And as a result, فَأَصَمَّهُمْ, He has made them deaf, وَأَعْمَى أَبْصَارَهُمْ, and He has made their visions blind. Meaning, they cannot hear, they cannot see. What can they not hear? What can they not see? The clear commands of Allah. That even when they're so clear, even when they're so obvious, they don't see them, they don't notice them. And this is the loss of turning away from the command of Allah. If a person turns away from one command, one obligation, one opportunity, then this begins a chain reaction of losing many, many more opportunities. Of turning away from many other things. Because good deeds, what do they lead to? More good deeds. And if a person leaves one deed, then that will give him the courage to leave many other. If he lets go of one opportunity, then he will let go of many other. For example, if a person is very strict about praying his sunnah, he prays his sunnah of fajr, he prays his sunnah of zuhr, of maghrib, of isha. Now, because he prays regularly, that will enable him to pray all of the sunnah. But if he says at fajr, doesn't matter, I'm not going to bother praying the sunnah. What's going to happen at dhuhr? Doesn't matter, I didn't pray fajr anyway, so it's going to lead to losing more and more opportunities. You let go of one thing, this will make you let go of many other. Many other. So, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ لَعَنَهُمُ اللَّهُ فَأَصَمَّهُمْ وَأَعْمَى أَبْصَارَهُم. That they become deaf, they become blind, they don't even see what they're supposed to do. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. Then do they not reflect upon the Qur'an? أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Or are there locks upon their hearts? أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. Meaning, what has made them turn away? Don't they reflect on the Qur'an? How could they ever turn away from the commands of Allah when they are so clear? How could they ever think about disregarding what Allah has commanded when the admonition of the Qur'an is very clear, the instruction, the advice in the Qur'an is very clear? When the effect of the Qur'an is very great, how can they ever disregard the commands of Allah? أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. يَتَدَبَّرُونَ is from tadabbur. And over here, tadabbur is being encouraged. That a person must do tadabbur on the Qur'an. He must reflect on the Qur'an. Why should he reflect on the Qur'an? In order to understand. in order to recognize the truth, in order to be admonished by the truth, and in order to do good, and in order to stay away from disobedience. So in this is encouragement. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. Will they not reflect on the Qur'an? Do they not reflect on the Qur'an? How can they turn away? أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Or are there locks upon their hearts? Meaning, it's not just this that they're not reflecting on the Qur'an, but rather on their hearts are locks, which prevent them from understanding, which prevent them from accepting. Aqfal is a plural of qufl. And qufl is from the root letters qaf, fa, lam. And notice the word aqfal, this is plural. Many locks. Locks upon locks. On what? On their hearts. What does it mean by the locks of the hearts? What does a lock do? Closes what is inside, yeah? Prevents anything from coming in or from going out. And once a place, once a room, a cupboard, something is locked, then you can't put anything else inside unless you have the key, unless you've opened it up. You see, one is that something is closed. Okay, that's bad. But the other is that it's closed and on top is also a lock. That is much worse. Because if something is closed, opening it is easy. But when something is closed and there is a lock on it, it's much more difficult to open it, because in order to open, you have to have the key. So, what are the locks of the heart? The locks of the heart are those locks or those things which prevent the heart from opening up, which prevent the heart from comprehending, from accepting the truth. So, even if a person sees, he hears, what happens? Nothing enters his heart. What are the windows to the heart? Vision, hearing, right? So a person sees the truth, a person hears the truth, he gets it, but he doesn't take it in. It doesn't have an impact on the heart. He doesn't comprehend it. So, أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Or are there locks upon their hearts that prevent them from understanding the Qur'an, that prevent them from taking lessons from the Qur'an, that prevent them from getting affected by the Qur'an? What's wrong with these people? Why don't they get it? Are there locks upon their hearts? And what are these locks, if you think about it? I told you the definition, that is something that prevents a person from understanding, from accepting the truth. So what is it? The locks of the heart are arrogance, pride, ignorance, heedlessness, jealousy, because they become barriers. You see the truth, but you don't want to accept it. You hear it, but you don't want to take it in. It's logical, but you don't want to admit it. This is what jealousy does. This is what kibr does. This is what pride does. So all of the diseases of the heart, what are they? Locks of the heart. Because they lock up the heart, preventing anything good from entering the heart. أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. So this is amazing. That these people, they listen to the Qur'an, they hear the Qur'an being recited, the commands are so clear, the instruction of the Qur'an is so clear, the warning is so clear, the good news is so clear, then don't they reflect on the Qur'an? Because if a person reflects on the Qur'an, it's not possible that he will not accept the instruction that Allah is giving him. It's not possible that he will stay away from what Allah is forbidding. So, what is the problem? Lack of reflection. What is the problem? The lock on the heart. Now, okay, the lock is there on the heart. What's the solution? You have to open it, right? How do you open it? By reflection on the Qur'an. That when a person reads the Qur'an, when a person reflects on the Qur'an, he reads one verse after the other. He reads the warning, he reads the good news, the encouragement, the example of the people of the past, the promises of Allah. The way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned so many things, what happens? It opens up the locks, one after the other. So, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Because you may have experienced this yourself as well, that some things which are so basic, which perhaps you found extremely difficult to do. But what happens as you read the Qur'an? That difficulty, it goes away. Why? Because that ignorance has been replaced by knowledge. That ghafla has been replaced by a state of consciousness. So, what is the solution to the lock? Reflection on the Qur'an. Study of the Qur'an. That is what leads to opening up the locks. So, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Now, if you connect this with the context of these ayat, when the command is so clear to fight in the way of Allah, the warning is there, the good news is there, the promise of Allah's help is there, then why would a person not go in the way of Allah? What's stopping him? Don't they reflect on the Qur'an? Because when a person reflects, then it makes it easier for him to follow the commands of Allah. And if he's not doing it, then there's a problem. There are locks on his heart. And we see over here that reflection on the Qur'an is highly encouraged. Because when Allah questions in this way, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ, what does it mean? That they should reflect on the Qur'an. So it's highly encouraged over here. And we see that every single person is included in this. يَتَدَبَّرُونَ means they. Meaning every single person should reflect on the Qur'an. Every person must do this. Why? Because this is what leads to action. This is what leads to opening up those locks. If you don't reflect, then those locks will not be opened up. If you don't study the Qur'an, you will not be able to do what Allah has commanded. So every single person on whom is the obligation to follow the commands of Allah must reflect on the Qur'an. This is for all people. Qur'an is for all people. In Surah Sad, ayah 29, Allah says, كِتَابٌ أَنزَلْنَاهُ إِلَيْكَ مُبَارَكٌ لِيَدَّبَّرُوا آيَاتِهِ وَلِيَتَذَكَّرَ أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. And a person who turns away from this book, does not bother to reflect, does not bother to study and understand, and follow what is in this book, then such a person is extremely unjust. In Surah Al-Kahf 57, وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنْ ذُكِّرَ بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِ فَأَعْرَضَ عَنْهَا وَنَسِيَ مَا قَدَّمَتْ يَدَاهُ. In Surah Al-Sajda, ayah 22, وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنْ ذُكِّرَ بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِ ثُمَّ أَعْرَضَ عَنْهَا. Turning away from the Qur'an, not studying it, not reflecting it, is the greatest injustice. And we see that the Prophet ﷺ will testify against the people who turn away from the Qur'an, who abandon the Qur'an. In Surah Al-Furqan, ayah 30, وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ يَا رَبِّ إِنَّ قَوْمِ اتَّخَذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَهْجُورًا. They have abandoned the Qur'an. They don't bother to study it. They don't bother to reflect on it. And it's amazing how people say that the Qur'an is very difficult. Therefore, every single person cannot study the Qur'an. He cannot reflect on the Qur'an. This is only for who? For the scholars, those who are highly learned, those people who are highly intelligent, who have studied a lot of deen, because every single person cannot understand the Qur'an. But if you think about it, at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, when he would recite the Qur'an, who would he recite it to? Only to the likes of Umar and Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu? No. There were people of all ages, people of all levels, people who knew how to read and write, people who did not know how to read and write, people who were from the deserts, the Bedouins, and people who were from the cities, people who were young, people who were old, men and women. Everyone learned from the Prophet ﷺ. He didn't say that the Qur'an is only for the elite. It's only for those who are highly educated, who have a lot of reasoning. No, it's for every single person. Because the Qur'an, if you study the Qur'an, the examples that are mentioned, for instance, every single person can relate with them. Like, for example, that of rain coming down from the sky. Everybody sees it. From those who are educated to those who are not. So, this is an incorrect understanding that people have, that Qur'an is only for the elite, the educated. No, it is for everyone, because Allah says, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. Do they not reflect on the Qur'an? And the fact is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made this Qur'an easy for taking a lesson. In Surah Al-Qamar, ayah 17, Allah says, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. The Qur'an is easy for taking a lesson. Is there anyone who would like to take a lesson? Is there anyone who would like to understand? It's easy. The invitation is there. In Surah Al-Dukhan 58, فَإِنَّمَا يَسَّرْنَاهُ بِلِسَانِكَ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَذَكَّرُونَ. In Surah Maryam, ayah 97, فَإِنَّمَا يَسَّرْنَاهُ بِلِسَانِكَ We have made it easy in your language. In Surah Al-A'raf 52, وَلَقَدْ جِئْنَاهُمْ بِكِتَابٍ فَصَّلْنَاهُ عَلَىٰ عِلْمٍ. That we have certainly brought them a book which we have detailed by knowledge. Meaning it's open, it's clear. And so many places in the Quran is called Nur, light, Huda, Rahmah. What does light do? It illuminates the way for you. It shows you the way. So it is light for everyone. It is light for every person. So over here Allah says, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. What is wrong with these people? Do they not reflect on the Quran, or are there locks on their hearts? They should open up these locks. How? By reflecting on the Quran, so that they can follow the commands of Allah. So what does this ayah teach us? What's the main lesson that we understand from this ayah? That if you find it difficult to follow any command of Allah, what should you do? What should you do? Reflect on the Quran. Read the Quran. Study the Quran. And that will give you the courage to do it. Because the Quran, it strengthens your iman. It increases your fear of Allah. It makes you realize the reality of this dunya. And only when you are in this state of mind, then can you obey. Otherwise, it's very difficult. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ ارْتَدُّوا عَلَىٰ أَدْبَارِهِمْ. Indeed, those people who reverted back to disbelief, who turned on their backs. Irtaddu from the root letters. Ra, dal, dal, rad. And rad is to return something that is unacceptable. And irtidad is to go back the exact same way one has come. So they went back the exact same way they came. They were not believers. They were living a life of disobedience. And now what happened? They came to Islam, and after some time, irtaddu ala adbarihim. They turned on their backs. They went the exact same way they came. They regressed. Who does it refer to? It refers to the munafiqeen. Because initially when things were easy, everybody was becoming Muslim. They also became Muslim. However, when the difficult commands were given, such as the command to fight in the way of Allah, what happened? The munafiqeen, they were very unwilling. They refused to accept. They refused to follow. So their behavior is being mentioned over here. That those people who reverted back to what? Irtaddu to what? To kufr. Ala adbarihim, upon their backs. Min ba'di ma tabayyana lahumul huda. After the guidance had become clear to them. Which guidance is this? The guidance that the Prophet ﷺ brought. Meaning the truth, the right course of action was very clear to them. It wasn't that they didn't know about the reality of Islam, they didn't see the truthfulness of the Messenger ﷺ. No. It became very, very clear to them. Huda, guidance, the right way, was made very clear to them. But still, they decided to leave. They decided to go back to their former ways. Such people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الشَّيْطَانُ سَوَّلَ لَهُمْ. Shaitan has enticed them. He has seduced them. He has made this very easy for them. وَأَمْلَى لَهُمْ. And He has given them false hopes as well. He has prolonged hope for them. سَوَّلَ. Seen, waw, lam. Tasweel. What does tasweel mean? When something bad is made to appear good, a person wants to do it. And when it appears to be good, it becomes very easy for him to do it as well. It becomes very easy for him to do it as well. Remember in Surah Yusuf, بَلْ سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُمْ أَمْرًا. That this is something that your nafs, your souls made very easy for you. Your soul tempted you. Your soul made it look very good. Because when you see something as bad, can you do it? Can you do it? If you view something as harmful, you will never do it. You will only do it when you view it as beneficial, enjoyable. Correct? So, سَوَّلَ لَهُمْ. He has made this easy for them. Meaning He has enticed them. He has seduced them. He has tempted them. He has adorned their irtidad for them. وَأَمْلَى لَهُمْ, and He has also prolonged hope for them. Amla is from the root letters Mim, Lam, Waw. And amla is to give amal. Okay? Mal is to walk briskly. And it is also said that amla is from amal. Amal is false hope. So amla, one is to walk briskly. So amla meaning He has prolonged for them. And secondly, amla meaning He has given amal to them. He has given false hope to them. So shaitan has given them false hopes. He has prolonged hopes for them. What are the false hopes that shaitan has given them? That doesn't matter if you turn away. What's the big deal? Enjoy life. Life is short anyway. Yeah, we'll see what happens in the hereafter. False hopes. When a person does something wrong, what gives him the courage to do it? False hopes. Like for example, a person is cheating the government in something. He's not filing his taxes properly. What does he think? I'll get away with it. This is what he thinks, right? I'll get away with it. He doesn't say the truth in filling up a particular form. What does he think? I'll get away with it. This is a false hope. Because if a person thinks that no, I can get caught, he would never ever make that mistake. So وَأَمْلَى لَهُمْ, shaitan has given them false hopes. Now we see that when the Qur'an was so clear, the messenger was so obvious, in بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُمُ الْهُدَى, what was to be done, meaning the commands, they were also very clear. The command, for example, of jihad, it was muhkam. There was no ambiguity. It was very, very clear. The Muslims were required to go and fight in the way of Allah. But we see that still the munafiqeen, the hypocrites, what was their way? That they turned away from obedience. They didn't accept it. Now this behavior, doesn't it seem very strange? Because who is expected to make a wrong decision? Someone who doesn't know. Someone who doesn't get it. But when the reality is very clear, the command is very clear, why is it that they turned away? Why? You know, every time that we study about the munafiqeen at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, we wonder what was wrong with those people. Why did they do anything like that? The messenger was so clear. The truth was so evident. The Qur'an is so clear. When we read it, it shakes us. How come it didn't shake them? What was wrong with those people? So over here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that the reason behind their turning away, the reason behind their disobedience is that shaitan has made their evil look very beautiful to them. And shaitan has given them false hopes as well. Many, many false hopes on which they depend. And they think they will get away. So the greatest deceiver, he has deceived them. And in this is a lesson for us as well. That if, despite the commands being very clear, we are not doing what we should be doing, then there is a problem. Shaitan has affected us then. Shaitan is leading us then. Because look at this. الشَّيْطَانُ سَوَّلَ لَهُمْ وَأَمْلَى لَهُمْ ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ قَالُوا. That is because they said. Who said? The munafiqeen, the hypocrites. They said. And ذَلِكَ, that, it refers to their irtidad, their turning away. How come they turned away? How come they made this decision of not following the Prophet ﷺ? بِأَنَّهُمْ قَالُوا, because they said, meaning this was a conscious decision they had made, they said, لِلَّذِينَ كَرِهُوا مَا نَزَّلَ اللَّهِ. They said to those people who dislike what Allah has revealed. What is it that Allah has revealed? The Qur'an. And who are those people who disliked what Allah has revealed? The mushrikeen. Who else? The Yahud. They also disliked what Allah had revealed. So they said to the mushrikeen, the Yahud, and also the munafiqeen, meaning the other hypocrites, what did they say to them? سَنُطِيعُكُمْ, we will obey you. فِي بَعْضِ الْأَمْرِ, in some matters. Meaning in some matters, we're going to obey you. We're not going to obey the messenger. Yes, we are Muslim. However, there are some things in which we are not going to do what other Muslims do. We're not going to listen to the Muslims, but instead, what are we going to do? We're going to do what you tell us to do. We're not going to do what Islam requires from us, but we will do what you dictate. سَنُطِيعُكُمْ فِي بَعْضِ الْأَمْرِ. We're not going to follow the Quran Sunnah, rather we're going to follow the ways of the mushrikeen. We're going to do what they want us to do. But Allah says, وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ إِسْرَارَهُم. And Allah knows about their secrets. They said this very secretly to the mushrikeen. They said this very secretly to the Jews. But what does Allah say? Allah knows about their secrets. The word israr is a masdar. And israr, if'al, is to do sir, to hide secret, to keep a secret. So all of these secrets that they kept within themselves, Allah knows very well about them. And israr has also been read as asrar, which is a plural of sir, meaning their secrets, those even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows about them. Now what do we see over here about the munafiqeen? What was their way? Of total submission to Allah and His Messenger? No, not of total submission to Allah and His Messenger, but rather partial submission. That yes, we are Muslim, because on the outward that's what they did. However, we're not going to do everything that Islam requires from us. We are also going to obey who? Our friends, our relatives, even if what they say contradicts what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do. In Surah Al-Baqarah, what do we learn about the munafiqeen? وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قَالُوا آمَنَّا وَإِذَا خَلَوْا إِلَى شَيَاطِينِهِمْ قَالُوا إِنَّا مَعَكُمْ. With the believers, they said, we're with you. And with their shayateen, with their devils, meaning the mushrikeen, the rest of the hypocrites, the Yahud, what would they say to them? That we are with you. So they would constantly go back and forth between Islam and Kufr. They would come to the believers, the gathering of the Prophet ﷺ, make it seem as though they were listening very attentively. And then when they would go back, they would say, we will listen to you. Don't worry, we are loyal to you. Why would they do this? Why? To the Muslims, we're with you. To the mushrikeen, we're with you. Why? Because they wanted benefits from both sides. They didn't want to displease anyone. They didn't want to make anyone unhappy with them. They wanted to keep the Muslims happy, and they also wanted to keep the mushrikeen happy, the other munafiqeen happy, or the Yahud happy, so that they could benefit from both. But the reality is in Surah An-Nisa, ayah 143, Allah says, مُذَبْذَبِينَ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ. Wavering between the two. Wavering between that. Between who? The Muslims and the non-Muslims. Just like a pendulum. At one point, with the Muslims. At the other point, with the other side. مُذَبْذَبِينَ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ لَا إِلَى هَؤُلَاءِ وَلَا إِلَى هَؤُلَاءِ. Neither to the believers nor to the disbelievers. Meaning neither are they fully with the believers, nor are they fully with the disbelievers. So whatever they said secretly, whatever promises they made with the non-believers like this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is well aware of this. And we see that to the mushrikeen even they would say, or to the Yahud they would say, that we will obey you. We will do what you tell us to do. We will follow your way. But when the time came, would they listen to them? Would they support them? They wouldn't support them. For example, we learn in Surah Al-Hashr, ayah 11 to 12, about the Banu Qaynuqa, that when they were exiled, when they were told to leave Medina, how did the hypocrites respond? Allah says, أَلَمْ تَرَ إِلَى الَّذِينَ نَافَقُوا يَقُولُونَ لِإِخْوَانِهِمْ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ لَإِنْ أُخْرِجْتُمْ لَنَخْرُجَنَّ مَعَكُمْ. If you go, we're going out with you. Meaning, if you're exiled, we're leaving Medina with you. Why did they say this? Why did they say this? To support them, that you have our full support. لَإِنْ أُخْرِجْتُمْ لَنَخْرُجَنَّ مَعَكُمْ وَلَا نُطِيعُ فِيكُمْ أَحَدًا أَبَدًا. And we will not obey with regards to you anyone ever. وَإِنْ قُوتِلْتُمْ لَنَنْصُرَنَّكُمْ. If you're fought with, we're going to help you. But Allah says, وَاللَّهُ يَشْهَدُ إِنَّهُمْ لَكَاذِبُونَ. Allah bears witness that these munafiqeen, they're liars. Because لَإِنْ أُخْرِجُوا لَا يَخْرُجُونَ مَعَهُمْ. When the Jews are exiled, these munafiqeen are not going to go with them. وَلَئِنْ قُوتِلُوا لَا يَنْصُرُونَهُم. And if they're fought with, they're not going to help them. وَلَئِنْ نَصَرُوهُمْ لَيُوَلُّنَّ الْأَدْبَارِ. And if they do help them, they will abandon them very soon. They will turn their backs away. Because the reality is that if someone is not faithful, if someone is not loyal to his Lord, then he cannot be loyal to any human being either. You understand? If someone is not loyal to his Lord, then he cannot be loyal with anyone. If someone is not sincere to the religion that he claims to follow, then he cannot be sincere to anyone. There are people who claim to be Muslim, but at the same time, their interests are with who? With others. But we see that when they're not faithful to their religion, they're not even faithful to others. Where they cheat their religion, their Lord, they also cheat people. This is a fact. Such a person cannot be loyal to anyone. If a person is lying to someone else, tomorrow they will lie to you. If they're cheating someone else, tomorrow they will cheat you. So we see over here about the munafiqeen that they would say to the non-believers, سَنُطِيعُكُمْ فِي بَعْضِ الْأَمْرِ. In some matters we are going to obey you. But in reality they didn't obey them. This was just a way of pleasing them. In reality, what did they do? Whatever their hearts desired. Whatever they liked. Whatever they found easy. In whatever was their best interest. That's the only thing they would do. And this is the reality of the munafiq. But isn't this amazing? Doesn't this sound, this statement, as I was reading it, I was shocked. That this statement, it seems so familiar. That people say, with regards to religion, that we don't have to do everything. We don't have to do everything. We don't have to listen to everything that is said. In some matters, okay, I obey Allah and the Messenger, and in some matters I have to listen to my family and my culture and my country, and so on and so forth. Isn't it so? So, we pick and we choose. Whatever suits us, that is what we do. Because what's the excuse? Allah wants us to take deen and dunya together. So when I do something of the deen, that's my taking something from the deen. And when I leave something of the deen, that's my taking the dunya with me. So they say, you have to take deen and dunya together. This is why, سَنُطِيعُكُمْ فِي بَعْضِ الْأَمْرِ. There is a misconception as to what balance is, what it truly means by taking deen and dunya together. People misunderstand. They say it means that you pick whatever you like. You take whatever suits you. There is this story that is told about this man who owned this company. And he hired many people from different places. But every time somebody would come and apply for a job, he would interview them. And depending on their religion, he would also ask them personal questions. You know, in many places, personal questions, you're not allowed to ask whether a person is divorced or not, whether a person is faithful to his religion or not. But this man, he would always interview every single person whom he hired, no matter what position he was hiring them for. Why? Because he wanted his company to be the most successful one. So once this Muslim guy, he went to him, and he's asking him, are you divorced? No. And one of the questions that he asked him, you pray 5 times a day. Why did he ask that question? When he was asked later, how does that concern you if I pray 5 times a day or not? He said that if someone is not faithful to his religion, if someone is not faithful to his Lord, you think he'll be faithful and loyal to me? If someone claims to be a follower of a religion and he doesn't follow it properly, then how can I expect from him that he's going to be sincere to me? How is it possible? So, when a person submits fully, when a person accepts fully, then it shows his loyalty. And it shows that he is faithful. And when a person is just picking and choosing, doing only what he likes and leaving whatever he dislikes, then that shows he has not submitted fully. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want us to do? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, udkhulu fis silmi kaffa. Enter into Islam completely. Completely, entirely. This is what Allah wants us to do. But unfortunately, we think that we have the freedom, we have the liberty to take whatever command we like, and at the same time, also try to please the rest of the world. In some matters, follow the religion. In other matters, do what the society dictates. Do what the family says. Do what you want to do. This is not total submission. This was the way of the munafiqeen. This was the way of the hypocrites. Unfortunately, the munafiqeen, they said this openly. سَنُطِيعُكُمْ فِي بَعْضِ الْأَمْرِ. However, many people today, they don't say it, but this is what they believe deep down in their hearts. I don't have to do everything. I can pick and choose whatever I like to do. But the Yahud, weren't they reprimanded for this? أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْضِ. You believe in some part and you disbelieve in some? This is not the right way. What Allah likes, is the way of Islam. And this is what our religion is about as well. Who is a Muslim? Someone who has completely submitted in every single way. Not in ways that he likes and he leaves what he dislikes. No, total submission.